Good buddy.
Aaron, we're ready. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to Graham City Council's meeting on dated, it's kind of loud, September the 10th, 2024. Thank you for being here. Apologize in advance. I'm losing my voice, but I'll do the best that I can. Would like for Joy, would you like to do our invocation? Please bow your heads.
Dear Lord, just thank you for bringing us all here tonight and just be with us and give us wisdom to do your work here and just be with everybody's here and let them have a safe trip home. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. If you'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pat Dorwood here tonight. Hi, if you could please come forward. Oh, okay. And Pat is, oh, okay.
My name is Sandra Aldridge, and I'm a member of the Battle of Alamance chapter of the American Daughters of the American Revolution. And I am chairman of the Constitution Week Committee.
Okay. Megan, do I need to read this from here or down there? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Proclamation September 17th, 2024, Constitution Week in the city of Graham, September 17th, 237. Constitutional Convention, whereas to the city of the Constitutional Commission is a mixed document and its general purpose. You're about to claim September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals that led to the framing of the Constitution in 1775, vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through the Moving on to the consent agenda, A, to approve the August 13th, 2024 council meeting minutes and sealed closed session minutes. B, to approve a budget amendment to move $77,000 from water administration to water and sewer distribution approve 2 title changes, water billing supervisor to customer service supervisor and utility billing technician to utility meter technician. C, to approve a budget amendment to recognize $10,080 in insurance proceeds revenue and increase the police department capital outlay budget by $10,080. D, to approve a budget amendment of $26,250 for matching funds for the Accessible Parks Grant for ADA projects at the Graham Recreation Center and $2,000 for the Haunted Train attraction at the Pumpkin Bash. E, to approve closing streets for Graham High School's homecoming parade on October 4th, 2024 from 4:45 to 5:30. The procession will begin at the Albright Avenue down Main Street and around Court Square down Pine Street and end at Grant Middle School. F, to approve a settlement of uncollected real and personal property taxes totaling $125,721.07 for fiscal year 2023-2024 and tax releases for $1,401.13. G, to approve a resolution opting out of the Tyco and BASF class action settlements in regards to aqueous film forming foams product liability litigation, U.S. District Court of South Carolina. Is there anybody here tonight to talk in regards to the consent agenda items as listed? Any questions from council? Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Joey? Ricky?
Amen.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as written?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve it as written. Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Have a public hearing on the annexation of 0.79 acres of Jimmy Kerr Road, AN 2403. A public hearing has been scheduled to consider an annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits to the city of Graham for 2 tracts of land totaling 0.79 acres located off Jimmy Kerr Road. I'd like to recognize City Manager Aaron Holland.
Oh, no.
You got promoted.
Uh,
Oh, I said, maybe, I'm sorry, Assistant City Manager Aaron Holland. Gave your promotion real quick, didn't I?
I did. Staff would, ask that council table this item to the October meeting, due to the fact that the rezoning that goes along with this was tabled and would not be ready for council consideration until October.
Do I hear a motion from the council to table this item until October session?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we table it.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. New business, Sesquicentennial Park, request for bids. City staff seeks direction from council regarding alternatives to be included in the request for bids for the Sesquicentennial Park. I'll recognize our city manager, Megan Garner.
Good evening. As you'll recall, the city council discussed potentials for Sesquicentennial Park at the March and April meetings this calendar year in advance of the fiscal year, which began on July 1st. Staff was instructed to get quotes or estimates on how much it would cost to repair the park or also relocate it. We have been unsuccessful in getting any contractors to provide any sort of firm quote. So we are requesting direction from council on what or all alternatives you would like us to consider when we issue a request for bids that will be formally bid to any contractor who would like to submit a bid.
Okay. So, tonight, I think there was some misinformation that was given out in regards to what the agenda item was. The agenda item that's on here is actually for us to put out a request for bid for repairs, which we've been trying to do since, I think, January, February, something like that.
March was when
Okay.
it was first discussed.
Well, I thought it was discussed at that meeting that we had in January. The
The-
budget
The
meeting.
council retreat was December 18th.
Okay, sorry, December, whatever. So it's just been very difficult for us to get anybody to even give us a bid. on doing it, but, us putting, it out maybe for a formal bid, hopefully we'll be able to get somebody, to bid it, and at least be able to know what to do, in regard to that bid moving forward. There was discussion about the possibility that if the, prices come in, too high, what other alternatives we could do to kind of reimagine the park. For anybody that doesn't understand or know what the issue is that originally when the park, when there was a building there originally, which is pictured in that picture right there, when it collapsed kind of unexpectedly as they were working on it, it had a very large basement, and they just kind of took a lot of the debris from the demoed building and put it in the basement, and then covered it up and didn't really properly, you know, when you're filling in a basement, you need to be putting in kind of, you know, not bad spoils, but like virgin dirt, and tamp it, and then put in dirt, and then tamp it, and then put in dirt and tamp it. And none of that was done. And so it has all these voids in the foundation, basically, that probably go anywhere from 15 to 20 feet. I know the basement at the 142 building, which is another two-story building down the street, has about from floor to ceiling is around 20 feet. So it could go as far in the ground as, I guess, 20 feet. And in trying to get, I was personally trying to get somebody local that maybe could give a better price than, say, just putting it out for bids for repairs. And I think their biggest concern is, you know, everybody kind of bidding on the same playing field. So one of the things I wanted to say to our maintenance supervisor, Burke, is that when it's drafted, the RFP, one of the comments that they made to me was to please make sure that you had the volume of dirt, like, could they bid like the volume of dirt that's to be removed from the site, in order to be able to start with a firm base and then build up that base, if there's not going to be obviously a basement going forward. And so that you get rid of all those voids that are in there that just are like loose debris or whatever from that building, brick and probably everything else. So originally, for a long time, it was a parking lot, just a gravel parking lot, and they wanted to make it look a lot nicer. And so the idea, I think, of the park came into play for the 150th anniversary. I also have bricks there in the park. Everybody on the council has, from the very beginning, when we were looking at what we could do here to kind of make repairs or reimagine the park, because the bell's been removed because of, I guess, of
Vandals,
yeah, I don't know how to say that.
vandals.
Yeah, people damaging it multiple times. And then, like, it's kind of difficult to have an event in there because of the noise from the traffic. Traffic's really loud, especially when people stop on the J breaks, you know, for the tractor trailers and stuff. It's almost impossible to have anything like a wedding or some sort of event there, because you've got the bell tower in the middle. So there was discussion, I think, about, you know, if we remove that, it's difficult to have something there because originally, I think they had envisioned having the arboratory, I guess you would call it it's like a arboretum, right? That the piece that's over top of it. They wanted to have vines growing on that, and then that became a maintenance issue. So they removed all the vines because I think that caused a problem with the paint staying on and I think it started to rust and stuff like that because it ate through the paint, the vines did. And then, so they got rid of that and they repainted it and, repaired it in the past. And then, they talked about, is there the possibility of putting something in there, maybe from the inside, in order to be able to, keep the rain off of, somebody that was maybe having an event, and removing the inside pillar that the bell sat on. So a lot of different things have been discussed, but nothing has been decided. We have no intentions of making a decision tonight, not at any time are we going to make a decision tonight about anything other than, as far as I know, other than getting bids, which is what we've been saying since January, is just putting out a formal bid request. So I'm sorry if you've come thinking that there was some sort of other decision, because that's the only decision that was being considered tonight. So um, the I think that everybody needs to wait until we hear how much it's going to cost to repair the park, which in my opinion is going to be significant, because of the basement issue and having to put up shoring devices and all that in order to be able to make it properly repaired so that it doesn't continue to sink in the ground. In the future, but, hopefully we'll get a good bid, and then we'll have to make a decision going forward on that. But again, any decision about the park, it's really difficult for any of us to really argue one way or the other about the park without having all the facts. And we just ask that you wait until we get all the facts for you to render an opinion as well about the park. So, with that said, my only comment would be that we include in the RFP very specific language about how much they would charge to remove the dirt by volume, the amount of dirt, so that everybody's bidding the same. Because one of the things that they kind of warned me about is like, well, somebody will bid it really low, but then when they get the job, then they're going to get you on the backside with change orders and everything, because they're going to say, well, we didn't know how deep it was. So we need to bid it as if, the worst case scenario, this is what it could be, and make sure that we're going to be covered with that and not get hit with a bunch of change orders, so that we can decide what we want to do moving forward. I can tell you that the council has taken into account, and has always said from the very beginning, even back when Megan brought this up, our city manager, because it's a budget issue, about the bricks. And I said, well, we would never want the bricks and, anything to happen to the bricks. So if the bricks were to be moved, because there's been suggestions about moving the arboretum and like revisioning that space and moving the bricks out to the sidewalk, which probably be more prominent, but regardless, the bricks would never be like cast away or thrown away or anything like that. And I just kind of take exception to that, because I think on the petition it said, destroyed, is that what it said, or there was a comment, the way it was worded sounded like it would be, like all that stuff would be destroyed, and that's never been the case. No one's ever suggested that. No one on this council has ever suggested doing that. So, Bonnie, do you have any other specific things about the
What should be,
request for bid?
I think the RFP should break the cost down into the disassembling and the reassembling of the memorial, saving all the bricks, the structure and such. A separate expense or cost for excavating and stabilizing, the cost to put the park back there. So that the bottom line is, by doing that, we will know what the true costs are for the components. We're not gonna do away with the, the bricks and the memorial. But if it turns out, it will be a decision made based upon what it costs. And I think we'll give, and depending upon what it costs, we may present it or bring it forward to the community to make a decision.
You're talking about like a referendum? Yeah.
Right.
Because I think if it's over 500,000, then it would have to be, right?
No, the dollar thresholds deal with how it has to be bid.
Okay.
But anyway, bottom line is, the park is not going to be removed, demolished, thrown away. We're going to save it. Becomes a matter of when we rebuild it, where are we going to put it? Do we put it back where it is, or do we put it at another location? But if you're concerned about us, that this council is going to destroy and, throw all the memorial bricks away, that is not going to happen.
And, do you have any comments about the,
Not really. We've been asking for, a cost analysis for a
Right.
while now. So this is definitely the direction that we need to go in, because we need to get those bids in and see what we're actually dealing with. And then maybe, like Bobby said, ask the public what their opinion is as well. But it's going to be a cost-driven thing for sure.
okay,
So, but I don't have any other specific questions at this time.
so Bobby's, proposing that it would be, the RF, the request for bids would be in regards to,
Disassemble and reassemble.
disassembling, moving it off-site, prepping the property as is, but it would all be like kind of separated out, like stage one would be this, stage two would be this, and this is how much it would cost to rebuild it in the exact place. Or in, really, I guess, wouldn't matter where it is, but the cost to rebuild it.
Yeah,
So-
some of those will probably have to be listed as different alternatives.
Okay. And then,
I don't really have anything for as the bidding process, but just, the whole reason this came up is because the park has become unsafe. Somebody on a mobility scooter, somebody with
Yeah.
Mhm.
mobility issues are gonna fall, and because we know about it, we all know about it, it's a liability. It's, so that's what discussed, why this became all about. It wasn't because we wanted to get rid of the park. I mean, it's, what do we do? If it's gonna cost $1 million to fix it, is there better use of that money? People have water lines that need to be replaced, different things. So, maybe the society that originally built the park could reform and maybe look at raising some money for it, because the city didn't build that park. It was done by an outside organization. But maybe that's just a possibility to look at money to make it more feasible to keep it where it's at. Just my 2 cents.
Ricky, do you have anything about the specific bid process?
I think
So that's the only thing that we're considering tonight is the bid process. There will be an opportunity for people to speak in the agenda, but that's not in this section. And we want to hear from everybody in regards to the Sesquicentennial Park or anything else that you'd like to talk about. But in regards to this, we'll just be entertaining a motion from the council to put it out for bid, formal bids for, I guess it would be either option 1, 2, and 3. And that's, I think, what we would be looking to do. Is there a motion on the floor for that?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we go for RFPs for options 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The signature event is item on the agenda, item number 3, downtown Graham street closures. City Council will consider the closure of the 100 block of East and West Elm Street, North and South Main Street, the public parking lot at intersection of East Elm Street and Marshall Street. Marshall Street, is that, I don't think that's spelled correctly, is it? Okay. And the public parking lot on the 100 block of West Elm Street from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on May 17th, 2025. I'd like to recognize our Parks Director, our Recreation and Parks Director, the esteemed Brian Fawcett, and his very, are you going to also speak? And Miss Emma Griffin, who is the workhorse over there.
She's the esteemed one.
Good evening. So as you can see on the agenda, we are here tonight to obtain approval for our street closures for the upcoming new signature event that we are planning for May 17th, 2025. We also would like to provide an update to council regarding meetings that were held last week with our downtown businesses and business owners, as well as get direction from council and receive an event name so we can begin moving forward with planning. So last Wednesday on September 4th, we had two different meetings that were options for downtown businesses, one at 9:30 a.m. and one at 5:30 p.m. at the Graham Historical Museum. For both meetings, we had about 11 people total. That includes Mayor Talley being there for both sessions, so 10 different individuals. A couple key things that were noted from the downtown businesses that came up at both meetings were parking issues for the businesses and their employees, as well as layout of vendors, space for downtown businesses as vendors and arts vendors, as well as the variety and quality of our arts vendors at the event. So regarding the parking for downtown businesses and their employees, with the event being proposed to be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., that's kind of prime time that a lot of the businesses have their employees coming in and being open. We have discussed this with them to explore an option to designate a part of a parking lot up until a certain time of the day on Saturday to allow for employees of downtown business parking. That way they know they have a place to park as they're coming in. The caveat to that is because how the event is going to be set up and take up the 4 blocks of downtown, that does not necessarily mean that that parking lot's going to be central to all businesses. It may be a little bit of a walk for some of their employees. However, at least they know they'll have a place to park. So we are exploring that option to provide to our businesses, as well as discussing the layout of the vendors. That seemed to be one of the biggest concerns that was brought up, as well as one of the biggest concerns that was talked about in years past when it came to Arts Around the Square. In the past, the way that the vendors were set up for Arts Around the Square had the backs of their tents against the sidewalk facing the storefronts of all the businesses, which essentially would shut off operation for their business that day because the vendors are blocking their doors and their entrances and their signs. We have discussed with the businesses downtown, as well as letting them know that our plan is to not block their storefronts, but rather encourage them to pop out of their storefront, set up a display on their storefront, and have our arts vendors kind of lined up down the middle of the street, back to back facing the storefront, in which would make kind of a natural walkway for event goers and customers to utilize the storefronts as well as the vendor frontage. And that way no one is being directly blocked. In discussion with those at the meeting, that seemed to please them that we wouldn't be blocking their storefront. And again, we would highly encourage our downtown businesses' participation in this event by setting up, kind of popping out of their store to draw attention. Obviously, that is up to each individual business, but we want to at least provide them that opportunity. One of the other things was the space for downtown businesses as vendors. So we do have downtown businesses that are not going to be necessarily within the event space. For one example was Renee at 64 Harvard. She's kind of right outside of the event space, the way we have it set up on our map right now as a draft, it looks like the stage being at the end of North Main Street would be a natural end to the event. So just as an example, to turn left onto Hardin Street to go down to Renee's store at 64 Harvard, that might be a deterrence from some of the event goers. They kind of leave the event space and want to go to their car and leave. So we want to be able to invite some of our other downtown businesses that are outside of the direct event space, especially those who are artists and arts vendors, to come in as a vendor and set up downtown without an additional charge that we would charge to our other arts vendors. Just as we wouldn't charge any of the downtown businesses to set up outside of their store, we wouldn't think it's fair having a downtown business have to pay just to set up around the corner. And the final not the final topic, but the final discussion that was a big topic was the variety and quality of vendors. We talked about this a little bit at the last council meeting, and it seems to be a consensus amongst us at the Recreation Department, City Council, as well as our downtown businesses, that focusing on true artisan and arts vendors, as well as having a good variety and high quality items at this event, be a priority. And not, we will do an application process for all of our arts vendors and we will curate a selection committee to help us choose which vendors are accepted into the event. So we want to just really let everyone know that that is a focus of ours. We definitely don't want to have something that you can find anywhere. We want a good quality and variety of vendors. Joey and Jennifer, y'all were both at the meetings. Was there anything that was kind of a consensus topic that I skipped over?
No, I think it was really important to involve the businesses so that, to get their buy-in, and I think that that everybody had nothing but positive input to give, so that was really good, and I appreciate you doing that step.
Absolutely.
I think as long as they had a place to park, they were.
Yes. Those 4 items were brought up at both morning and evening meetings, and they were all brought up very early on in the meeting. So though the parking and layout for vendors were 2 of the major concerns that, in conversations with those in attendance and in my time walking around to the businesses leading up to the meetings, after those conversations, they felt a little more at ease having the event downtown.
And we talked about like maybe even having shuttle service or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
To off-site parking if.
Correct. That's something that we discussed at last council meeting as well, that it is our intention to designate a couple different areas as off-site parking, to have a shuttle service running throughout the day to bring people in to maybe help alleviate the parking downtown.
Okay. All right, so we need, any other discussion? We need a motion and a second to approve, or deny the closing of the 100 block of East and West Elm Street, North and South Main Street, the public parking lot at the intersection of East Elm Street and Marshall Street, and the public parking lot on the 100 block of West Elm Street from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on May 17th, 2025.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the closings.
A second in favor of Arts Around the Square. What say you, the council? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Just to
Thank
be
you.
clear, is that also the vote for the name or just the road closures?
It is
Just a road closure.
just for me.
Is that something y'all
Next.
want to, is that something y'all want to discuss tonight?
At this
Yeah.
time, I would like guidance from council on the preferred name of the event, so we can truly start moving forward with marketing, reaching out to vendors and securing contracts. So as you remember, last meeting, we were instructed to try to come up with alternatives. Obviously, Arts Around the Square is on the table. We've heard that from council as well as others in the community. However, we were instructed to explore other options to let you guys know. So we have 2 viable options that we would like to present. And to let you know about the first being a play on words as far as Arts Around the Squared goes, and that would be Arts Squared. So it would pay homage to the past event. Obviously, it incorporates a lot of the same ideas with that. However, it would be a modern take on it. It would be something different, so it'd help us move forward in our event planning process. So that was our one option. And the other option we would like to potentially explore is to bring back the name from the Love Graham Festival. That obviously happened a few years ago. The last year it happened was 2019. It wasn't able to happen in 2020 due to COVID restrictions. However, the reason being for that event name is from its time that they started planning that event, it gained traction very quickly. Love Graham is very much secured in Graham city limits. We have a sculpture of art right by Wits that is Love Graham, and it kind of has already the notability and recognized name. And so that was a concern from council, is that Arts Around the Square, it's a recognized name, it's going to bring people in. Love Graham is also very much still a recognized name that would bring people in and incorporate kind of our vision for the event moving forward, that really shows what Graham has to offer to our community and those around it. So those are two alternative options in addition to Arts Around the Square being on the table.
And we welcome anybody else's suggestions
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
I really like for it to be called Arts Around the Square. I think it has some intellectual, value. People know what it is. I think even when we passed the budget, we specifically said that it wouldn't be used for any other event, just Arts Around the Square. I think it's been proposed previously to try to use the money for different events, and I just really want us to.
I think it's key. I think it's key that the word art and square, when you said art square, you know, those words need to be incorporated in whatever we call the event.
Again, I just,
Arts Around the Square.
I'd like for us to just stick with what works and
Yeah.
what people know, and
I'm with Jennifer on that. This 20 years ago, and people still call it Arts Around the Square. Want to know when Arts Around the Square is coming back? I mean, that's going to bring people
Then let's
just
name
from the
it.
name of it.
Let's
Okay.
prove it.
okay, make a
Madam
motion,
Mayor?
we call it Arts Around the Square. Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. You have your name, you have your date. We're
And you got your
excited.
closure.
Thank you so much. Number 4, civilian traffic investigators. City council will consider a title change from traffic enforcement officer to civilian traffic investigator. Transition the existing employee from part-time to full-time effective September 22nd, 2024, and approve a budget amendment for $42,000 to cover the expense through the end of fiscal year 2025. Recognize City Manager Megan.
Wasn't sure if I was assistant or city manager right now. So at the,
Said it right.
city, okay. At the meeting last month, city council decided via consensus to direct staff to evaluate the possibility of transitioning the existing traffic enforcement officer from part-time to full-time. When evaluating the potential duties of this position, the following were identified: business district patrols for the observance and reporting of ordinance violations. Employee would regularly make contact with the business owners to address and report local concerns to the proper city departments. The individual in this job class would continue to fulfill the duties of parking enforcement and provide additional foot patrols within the business district. In addition to the traffic enforcement and public outreach duties, this position would also be able to investigate traffic crashes involving only property damage. In 2023, Graham Police Department responded to 250 property damage crashes along South Main Street from Albright Avenue to Ivy Road.
Leave it.
That accounted for approximately 25% of all property damage crashes in 2023. The ability to employ a civilian traffic investigator would allow the agency to free up sworn personnel to handle other areas of concern within their assigned zone. If this is something that city council would like to consider, a budget amendment would be required to cover the expenses from now until the end of the year, and that budget amendment is in the amount of $42,000.
And he would get training, I assume, on that, so.
Correct.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve, this title change to traffic enforcement officer. Um,
I had a question.
Well, from traffic enforcement.
I had a question about the verbiage of additional foot patrols. I mean, what does that entail exactly, the word foot patrol?
Yeah, I think it would probably be most appropriate for the police chief to answer that one. Chief Baker, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Explain it to me. I'm a lay person, so.
So currently, our parking enforcement, personnel, they're on foot, marking vehicles and going through the downtown business district. So he would continue to do that over a longer span of time. It would be from 8 AM until 5 PM instead of the modified schedule that he's currently on of anywhere from a 9 to 1 or a 10 to 2. So it would encumber the entire day.
Okay,
It'd be a full schedule, a full-time schedule instead of a part-time.
okay, so that's the only difference then. Okay,
And at one time, they were full-time. Somebody was full-time before.
They were,
Yeah.
it was a full-time parking enforcement position.
okay.
So if that position was funded before, and, I'm just curious how that, like, what happens there?
All I can tell you is that I don't recall cutting it from the budget, so I assumed it happened more than 2 or 3 fiscal years ago. So I can't really provide much insight on that one to you.
I'm not sure when it was not funded as a full-time position. I think it was when the downtown area, the businesses,
COVID?
it was prior to COVID.
Oh, really? Okay. I just remember at one time, like when it originally started, it was full-time and you could really tell a difference because people didn't violate it. And now they know like when he's coming, and so they know, they know his schedule. When you just said it, I could have told you his schedule because I already know it could too.
Mm,
He's a really cool guy, if you ever stop and talk to him.
He's
He is
great. He
wonderful.
does a great job for you, really. And I mean, in a very difficult position, I think that position and the zoning enforcement officer position, I mean, I would never have either one of those jobs, but they do really well with people. They have the right personality for those jobs. Thank you. Ricky, your motion?
I made the motion that we approve the title change from traffic enforcement officer to civilian traffic investigator and move it to a full-time position starting September the 22nd, 2024, and that we approve a $42,000 budget amendment.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And,
Madam Mayor,
yes,
can I ask you a question
Sure.
on this one? My recollection from last month's discussion was that part of the interest of the council in changing this position was to deal somewhat with the homeless situation downtown.
Yeah, that's why I was asking for clarification, because that was discussed.
Well, that's what I thought was the
But
main thrust, and then tonight it's no thrust that I see in there.
I think that would be a liability issue for us if we were to try to have a civilian doing that. My personal belief, but it was
if he's, I
discussed.
think if he's down there full-time, if there's any kind of issues going on down there, he could certainly be more, aware of them and bring an officer there if needed.
Yeah, he could call for help, but
What is your, Chief Baker, do you have a comment about it?
So currently, Mr. Varone, he alerts the district officer to come and respond to the scene if there's anything that's abnormal and unusual. If it's anything that he can't answer questions about from the general public or business owners have questions, concerns, comments, or need to report crimes, he makes contact with the district officer, and they respond to the scene.
I understood that, from the earlier description tonight. Again, what I'm missing is that I thought the impetus of the position was to deal with complaints and concerns about homelessness down to aggressive panhandling and things of that nature were what the council discussed, I thought, last month. But I don't see that in the description for this month.
He's not a sworn officer. He can't.
I understood. I
Right.
said that last
Yeah.
month.
Right.
And that he would have to, as the chief described, he would have to summon a sworn officer.
Mhm.
District is what she used the term, but they would have to summon somebody. But I still don't hear that as any of his even original purview is to deal with that issue, the way y'all have described it and the way it's written up in the description.
But I think Megan has relayed to the chief that that's gonna be part of his training is to be monitoring for those things. Because somebody excessively loitering, trying to sleep or pitch a tent downtown or, aggressively panhandle people. I mean, I saw somebody the other day that, I mean, people told him multiple times, no, no, no. He goes and sits down with them and like won't leave, and like, intentionally trying to get them to leave. We don't want people to feel like they're being harassed just because they come downtown. And so I think having more of a presence downtown with somebody in a uniform, is a positive thing for people just in general obeying traffic laws, not jaywalking, not walking down the middle of the street, not skateboarding when we have signs up clearly saying no skateboarding.
Are you intending to have him start wearing a uniform? I don't think you.
Yes.
He does wear a
He
uniform.
Wears a uniform, yeah.
Yeah, he does.
And I would think that the general public would assume that he is a person of, Yeah, like-
Yeah, I'll say it's pretty clear from his attire that he is associated with Graham Police Department.
correct. And that they need to listen to him.
Ours.
And if he has a problem with them listening to him, then he can call for backup, so to speak. But I think having a presence down there is definitely needed. And I'm just gonna tell you that in the last 2 weeks, Graham Police Department's personally come to me 5 different times to get video footage on accidents down there. And, that takes up the officer's time and all of that. I mean, that could be, I'm sure, better spent doing something else. But I personally know that there's a lot of, accidents that they have to go and kind of get a lot of information on. They've got to get pictures, they got to get video, they got to take down information. I mean, sometimes it's an hour doing an accident investigation. And we can get somebody that you're not paying such a high salary to do that. I think that would be a better use of the police's time, I think. That's just my personal opinion, but thank you for that question. But I think it was assumed by the council that all of that training would be done with him. 5, amend the code of ordinance, canvassers and solicitors permit hours and duration. Here we go again with unsolicited, harassment, especially in subdivisions. And I know this is an issue that's near and dear to people that live in subdivisions, people going door to door, knocking on doors. So, I'll recognize our Assistant City Manager, Aaron Holland.
All right, thank you, Mayor. At the conclusion of last month's meeting, council directed staff to review our current ordinances pertaining to canvassers and solicitors permitting. It was suggested that staff research other municipalities that apply regulations on their hours, as well as look at the duration of the length of the time that the permits were valid. The information that you received has an amendment to the ordinance that would prohibit anyone to panhandle between the hours of 7:30 p.m. to 9 a.m. And it will also amend the duration from 180 days to 90 days that the permit was valid. Staff does recommend approval. This was reviewed by our attorneys as well.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the ordinance amendment?
Does this also cover, solicitors? Can't come to the door between
Yes,
those hours
yes.
either?
Yes.
It's canvassers and.
Because it just says engaging in the business of peddling specifically.
A
So-
peddler or solicitor.
It says a peddler or solicitor to engage in the business of peddling. I mean, we don't want them coming to solicit to sell us anything either, right? I mean, after 7:30 PM.
Consider peddling?
According to the definition up here, it's not, but I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Peddling or hawking of goods, I don't know, is it the same thing? Are they,
Yeah,
Maybe that.
Peddling is a-
Peddling or soliciting.
because peddling is a synonym would be selling.
I thought of those as a little bit different, but okay.
Okay. That's how you're gonna interpret it, isn't it, Chief Cole?
Okay.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the ordinance amendment to chapter 8 business article, 4 canvassers and solicitors permit, section 8-104 and 8-113 of the Code of Ordinances?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve as written.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, pedestrian plan update discussion. So I have a lot of comments on this, but there's no way I could get through it because my email was not working. And I was emailing poor Aaron this weekend saying I can't get to it. And I'm sorry, I just assumed it was in the packet, but it wasn't. And, so I didn't get through all 104 pages, but I got,
154.
yeah. Yeah, it was, 154, sorry. So it was, but I got through a good part of it, but I hadn't gotten through the rest of it. So maybe we could postpone this discussion until next month.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think there was any action, there was no action that was asked of council tonight. It was more so if you had any questions or any comments that you wanted us to take back to the consultant, whether it was tonight in a discussion amongst everyone, or if you want to individually send them to me and I could pass it along. Either way was going to be fine. It was just that I wanted to at least get on the radar of council that this item is going to start to come up as an action item.
Okay. So no action tonight, but if you guys could get your comments to Aaron about any questions or concerns so that he can address them going forward. And now we move to our public comment period.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
The 154 pages you referred to, is that in the packet?
It's posted on the website
Yeah,
and social media, I believe.
on both. Yep.
Sam Powell?
Madam Mayor and City Council, I wanted to come tonight and maybe answer questions or at least fill you in a little bit more about what happened with the Sesquicentennial Park. I was the co-chair of the Sesquicentennial Committee with Pat Bailey.
My mom.
And gosh, that was 25 years ago. I was 47. It's been some time. But
Looking good.
thank you, Mayor. What we had done was when we had the Sesquicentennial, we were looking for a lasting gift for the citizens of Alamance County. And it morphed into a much bigger project than we had originally planned. So we came over and talked with the staff here at the City of Graham and asked them about the parking lot that was there at the time. and it had been used for several years. It was fairly unsightly. And the city of Graham purchased that piece of property so that we could use that. And when we were building the park, it wasn't a committee that came in and just did that. That was with a lot of cooperation between our committee and the city staff. So we relied on city staff to advise us on that, and we got a lot of help. I wanted to just tell you a little bit about what we did. When we started looking at the property and planning, we got a call one day from the staff, and they asked us to come down to the park. Well, the north-facing wall, there's a building there, I think the furniture company. The wall had a covering on it that was a fiberglass material. It had separated from the building. It was the height of that building. And they told us that it could fall and hurt somebody. So they put ribbons out and said that that was unsafe. Well, that immediately took us to something we had not planned on. We had to do something with that. If we were going to use that property, we had to do something with that wall. So that's when we started raising money and selling bricks. The bricks we sold at $100 a brick. We sold about 450 bricks. And we paid $58,000 to have a footing put in and that wall bricked all the way up. And I think you'll agree it looked pretty good.
It does. Mhm.
So that was the first thing that we did. We had to address that. And that took us a lot further, a lot bigger project than we had originally planned. We then came up with the idea of doing a pergola, and that's what we call it, that metal structure in the middle. And the pergola was a gift of the, to put that there. And a lot of the things that we did were gifted to us. We didn't come in with a big pocketbook. We went as we could. So this pergola was provided. And then we put down a pad of concrete and put pavers on top of that in sand, and they weren't mortared in place. So those are just sitting there. I understand from the contractor that did the work that they discovered the basement was there. They knew that, and the architect advised to put down a concrete pad with rebar and just pave over the top of it. So I wasn't aware of that, but at any rate, that's the way it was done. And in retrospect, that should have been dug out and not done that way. Also, a four-sided clock was placed there. I think that was purchased by the city with some money that we had donated. And then we added an electrical service to the park and an irrigation system for the planters and the plants. So it was a nice project. Its intent was to honor the citizens of Alamance County for the first 150 years since the county had been founded in 1849, and the city of Graham was laid out in 1849, incorporated in 1851. So we said, well, this would be for Alamance County, but it was also then the city came in and said, well, we would like to also honor the city of Graham because it's also the sesquicentennial for the city of Graham. So when you walk in the park, there's two entrances. One has a stone in the bottom that is for Alamance County, the other entrance for the city of Graham. So it was a joint project. I had, hoped that we could just go in and lift some of the, the part that is sunk. But I have had two contractors go out and look at it, and they came back and said, no, that what you need to do is you need to remove what's there, dig it out, and put a, packed soil or rock or concrete or whatever filler in there if you're gonna save it, and come back up and then put everything back. And then the question is, well, how much would that cost? And I have one contractor who has told me that they would do it for 100,000. And that, I think, is not a lot of profit. I think that's basically what the cost would be. You have to lift up that pergola metal structure. And when they put it in, it was heavy, and it took two cranes to support that. And I'm assuming you'd have to bring in cranes, lift that up, and then you'd have to have some place to set it. And it's quite heavy. And then you'd have to dismantle everything that's there, come back, dig down, put in new soil, put in a pad if you're gonna do that. And then the brick pavers on top again, if you want to do that. But one of the contractors suggested that there would be also an opportunity to perhaps, in redoing it, not put in as much of these planters as is there now. It would provide more space, and that would cut down on the maintenance that you have to do. So I just wanted to suggest to you that there's a possibility that if you're going to save it and try to do something with it, you could change what's there so it's not exactly identical to what it was before. And from my standpoint, from the committee, I think that would be perfectly acceptable. So if we're going to do that, it's a project that, you say, well, who's going to pay for it? I think that it's an Alamance County and Graham joint facility project. So I would ask the county for some support as well. And there might be that we could get out and raise some more money. But the committee, as a representative of the committee, I would just ask that you do consider keeping it. I think when we raised the money early on, and we got money from a lot of people, in the community, and the feeling was that this would be, have some permanence to it. We can't say what's going to happen in the future, but we had hoped, we would hoped that it would last for a while anyway. And we hope that we can come up with a solution and do that. But if you would like, I'd be glad to assist you in getting a bid from a contractor.
Well, it'd be put out for public, so I'm not sure who you spoke to, but I personally spoke to somebody local trying to get somebody that maybe cared about Graham and that would maybe give a lower price too. And everything they were saying was like really concerning too. And I think, it's not like, we've discussed this multiple times as a budget issue, and we just didn't feel comfortable making any kind of decision until we have all the facts. And
Right.
we, every month we're asking, you got anybody to give you kind of a round number or a number that you feel good about? Nobody wants to bid it. Nobody wants to. When you start going down in the ground and you go 5 feet and you have shoring devices, it's one cost. You go 10 feet, it's a whole nother cost. And you go 15 feet, then you go possibly 20 feet. I mean, start really getting nervous about the price, because we can cave in and net building next door and just, you get a little bit nervous about all of that, in the city, of course. Anything happens, they love to try to sue what they think is big pockets. So, we want to, we don't know, there's no council member that's elected up here. The one thing I think that I'm personally proud of is that we do what the people want. And, there's It's not what Jennifer wants, it's not what Bonnie wants, or Ricky, or any of us. We try to do what the people want, and, but I think everybody needs to, maybe just pump the brakes and wait till we hear what the price tag is. Cause you know, when I heard that, they were gonna do something with the carousel in Burlington, you know, I didn't want them to lose that carousel, or, you know, I didn't want it to be damaged or anything. That price tag on that thing, how much was it, Bob?
That's crazy.
Probably, I can tell you would not have voted. for that. I love the carousel, but it would have sat where it was at. And just hope, we would have hoped and prayed we didn't have another, didn't have another flood, but, or maybe we could have lifted it up from where it was at. $5 million. Oh my goodness. I thought, what in the world?
I think the bottom line is,
It gets expensive, and we have to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, and we gotta know really what to tell the taxpayers before we make a commitment to do one thing or
Right.
another. And so, yeah. We wanna do what is in the best interest of the citizens, and I personally have a brick there, so, I mean, you know, there's never been a case where it has not been an option that, nothing was going to ever be destroyed. It's just, there were options being floated around as to whether it would be moved to some place that maybe was, I think they had, there was a suggestion for it to be moved to the Civic Center, where you could actually have like a wedding there and use the pergola to have a wedding, because it's not loud there. It's beautiful. It's under canopy, and you have the Civic Center right there where you could do, you know, have a you know, have food, or do receptions, have a dance area, all that kind of stuff. And using the bricks out on the sidewalks, you know, but there's lots of suggestions that have been made, but there's never been any decisions, and we kind of emphasize that multiple times, that no decisions have been made, and we really need to get pricing before any kind of
I
decisions
agree.
are made.
Yeah, that's gonna lead it. One thing that you could do possibly too, if you want to get a better feel for what's underneath, they have ground penetrating radar. There's a company over in Raleigh that you can call, called Ground Penetrating
Sounds
Radar
expensive,
Solution.
Sam.
I'm sure there's a cost to it, but that would tell you,
Yeah,
you know, what's underneath.
Yeah.
And
and I think, you know,
give you a better idea for what the
Yeah.
expense is gonna be.
yeah, I think, you know, if we get an estimate on how much it would cost, across the board with multiple contractors on removing however much volume they estimate that to be in dirt, in order to be able to start with a base that's solid, and then get all the brick and everything that's down in there, they probably metal beams and everything. Because clearly there's some void somewhere, because it's settling, obviously. Then I think we have you know, won't have that problem in the future, but everybody says you don't want to spend all this money. You don't want to spend a couple $100,000, and then you're right back in the same situation 20 years from now. It's already, because I think it's almost like a foot now, or maybe even more than a foot that it's sunk down. I mean,
Makes it
it's-
even more concerning that you put concrete down and it sank that much. That means it's really sank underneath that concrete.
That's right. There are voids underneath
Yeah,
there.
I mean, it's
Obviously.
severe voids to make the concrete crumble. The brick's one thing, because it's on sand. But when that concrete underneath those bricks is fell in, that makes it even more concerning at this point.
It's almost at a
Yeah.
point now, with the way the thing has sunk down, that we may have to close the park off, because it's becoming a safety issue.
I think so. We measured it, and from the wall of the building north-south across the park, it drops 1.5 inches. The pergola has sunk about 5 inches.
Mm.
The bricks are down a good 8.5. So there's quite a bit of settling that has.
Well, on the side there, like if you're coming off of Main Street, way more than an inch. I mean,
Yeah,
it's at least a foot that's down.
yeah,
from
Well,
where it was
you were saying that was
originally.
what, 8.5 inches?
8.5 inches down.
That one, I mean, it's almost like two, I don't know how, that two levels of brick down. And then on the other side, somebody backed into the other wall and damaged it and left, of course, didn't leave their card, so to speak, but, yeah, it's been a challenge.
We do have some pictures, this is of when it was,
This is-
groundbreaking and.
This is the groundbreaking ceremony with faces still recognized in there of the groundbreaking. And it's an important event in our county's history, and our city's history.
Well, the
And
main thing is,
it's good to have.
it was never our intention to demolish and eliminate the park.
Thank you.
That never came up in the discussion.
The cost drives that decision.
Right now, it's one of those things of, what is it gonna cost to fix it? So 25 years from now, whatever, it's,
You can be
Stay-
digging a hole for
right.
the next part.
so it's important. That's why the whole matter is, let's fix it right. Yeah, so if anybody's
thank you.
concerned that the park was gonna be demolished and done away with, that never entered our discussion.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to address you and discuss this a little bit. And if you did have any questions, I'd be glad to come at any time and talk with you.
Yeah.
I was not involved in the building of the park. Herb Carmen was the architect, and I was involved in fundraising and doing some other things, but, any rate, there's not a whole lot I can say, but, we did a lot that year in 1999.
It was a good co-chair committee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Could get with, the city manager, assistant city manager, and let them have the names of the contractors that you've spoken to.
Be happy to.
That would help us out, I think.
No, he's been beating the bushes to try to find people.
I mean, just put it in perspective, the picnic shelter at the park, when it was burnt, it cost $200,000 just to erect a wooden picnic shelter back on a site that was already prepared. So that's kind of where we were. That's like a baseline of where we're at as far as money.
Okay, Louise Wilson?
Good afternoon, Mayor Talley and council members. My name is Louise Wilson. I reside at 503 Thompson Road, Graham. I'm what's considered an original Graham Square Miler. I was raised, born within 200 yards of the courthouse down on East Elm Street between here and the cemetery. So I'm here today to talk about the brick that are there, that have been memorialized by citizens, businesses, things that are involved with the history of Alamance County and Graham. The bricks were just a small part of what the cost of the park was, but it was an opportunity for the people who grew up here to be able to recognize them. Now, I'm speaking to all of you, but especially to Councilman Wicker, Chin, and Hall, who were not living here. They've moved here in the last 25 or so years. So you don't know the history, but in looking at it, I went through the list of 400 more. It was like putting a quilt together because those pieces fit. They represented citizens who lived here, who worked here, who raised their families, who taught school. It represented business people who are still in operation here, like Green and McClure, Rich and Thompson, businesses that had a lot of growth here and supported our city. It was not only Graham, but it was spread out to Alamance County and opened up to the whole county. I saw a list of Miss Nanny McBain on the list. Miss Nanny McBain was involved in Eli's quilting party in the Eli Whitney community. That was one representative. I found a brick from the people of Haw River who simply said 255 years of service to Alamance County. How important is that? It meant a lot to them. You go all over. We had a brick from Mebane, Elon. I want to specifically point out the Powell family, and I don't mean to embarrass Dr. Powell, but that family was instrumental in starting Carolina Biological Supply in Elon, which provided scientific experiments and exhibits for the schools. If you took science in a school, whether it was here or elsewhere in another state, you probably dissected a frog that came from Carolina Biological Supply. That family not only did that, but the Powell family went on to establish LabCorp, one of the largest employers in Alamance County, of over 5,000 employees that they employ here. They are worldwide. They operate in 36 countries, and they still maintain their corporate headquarters here. Can you imagine? We have an S&P 500 company that is headquartered in downtown Burlington. How important is that? And they're recognized, their family and their contribution to the committee, to this endeavor for the park. Do you know that we had 3 governors from Alamance County who served as governors for North Carolina? Thomas M. Holt, the Masonic Lodge here is named for him. He's buried down here in the cemetery, in Graham Cemetery. We had W. Carr Scott, who started out as a farmer, a dairy farmer. He built Melville Dairy. I've got an old tin carton still that I had that sat on our front porch that he delivered milk bottles to our house. That's how we got our milk. He was a big dairy farmer. Then he went on to be elected as governor of North Carolina and pulled all the farmers, paved the roads, got them out of the mud, got them their products, their what they grew, their milk distributed. Further, he went on to represent us as a United States Senator. Then followed by his son, Robert W. Scott, as the next of the 3 governors, along with First Lady Jessie Ray Scott, who was a teacher at Alexander Wilson School. I could just go on and on and on, and I wish you could go and look at it. The thing about it is, those who didn't live here or were born here, you don't know these people, but they meant a lot to the folks who sought to honor them. I'll close by saying one of the most interesting I found was a brick that was dedicated to honor a gentleman by the name of Mr. Earl P. Gates. Mr. Earl P. Gates was a neighbor of mine growing up. I'm 87. I knew him. I knew his family. He was a builder here in Alamance County. Back during World War II, he built, there's an example, a row of houses down here on East Pine Street across from the middle school. He built houses, affordable houses, for those that had come in to work at Western Electric while their husbands, brothers, fathers were in World War II fighting for us. Then they came home. You could go down there. I knew all those people. They were associated either with Western Electric during the war, or they came back here and built and lived here. And that bill, that brick was bought and purchased by none other than Mayor Jennifer Talley and her husband Chuck. And Mayor Talley, I do not think that you thought at the time y'all were honoring him that this was just going to be a temporary thing, that another council would come along and see fit to just move these or do away with them or whatever. You were given a gift by the Alamance County Board of County Commissioners and a prior city council who accepted the Sesquicentennial Park as a gift in commemorating the formation of this county in 1849 and the city of Graham in 1851 as a joint effort. So it's my hope that I purchased a brick. My grandfather was the first proprietor of the Graham Soda Shop on which this park sits. Caroline Davis, who's with me today, her father was a proprietor. It went on down through the years until it finally just was burned down and torn down and done away with. So you have been given a charge to preserve that. And my hope is that once you find out the alternatives and what can be done, that there'll be an alternative that will allow it to be repaired and leave this. We have millions of people come down Interstate 85 here every day. They can look up Main Street and they see the courthouse sitting up here. They say, whoa, this is a busy looking place. They come, they sit, they enjoy the park. They look around at all that we have to offer. I see high school groups having their pictures made from graduation. There've been weddings there. There's no telling what other kind of events have been there. We need to keep that green space. And my hope is that when all of this study comes back, that you will see fit, if it's feasible, and we can understand there could be some cost involved that would not make it feasible. But if so, I would ask that it be preserved. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Daniel Elvis. Okay, Paul Keller.
Hello, Council. My name is Paul Keller, recently retired Graham business owner and Graham resident, 410 Stonehenge Drive. My concern on the property is, well, this evening I heard the word move 6 times. So it sounds like maybe one of the options is moving the park. Can somebody maybe clarify when you say move?
Well, if it turns, again, if we can't rebuild the park where it is, if it becomes economically infeasible, I mean, we'd like to have it there, but we got to fix it. That's why we're going out for these bids. But as I've said, we're not going to demolish or throw it away. And so the question is, if we don't put it there, where can we put it where the citizens can still benefit from having it?
And so there was a suggestion that it go to the Civic Center. There's like a big kind of
There's a park.
open space area that's very green with big trees beside. If you're standing at the pool looking, it would be like almost behind that Civic Center area. To have more of like make it a venue area for the pergola. And then taking the bricks, there was a suggestion to take the bricks and put them into the sidewalk.
So if it's moved, it's, that property is not going to be sold.
All depends.
I don't.
That's the concern I think a lot of
See,
us have is if it's
being-
sold.
Well, if we move the park, then it becomes a piece of property that needs to be utilized. Because we're not going to move the park and leave that space vacant.
My suggestion would be if you have to end up moving the park, that it remains part of city property, that it's not sold off.
Oh, absolutely.
Developed to a private developer. It is a beautiful corner. I mean, that building there is beautiful. I could imagine something like that there today. But I would love for the city to make a commitment that it remains city property, if not the park. And the other thing is, if funds aren't available now, just a suggestion, I only have a little over a minute left, is perhaps, temporarily you could build a fountain. You could turn it into gardens, certainly keep the bricks until the money is available. Maybe we don't have the funds to do it now, but to sell it off to private development, I'm very much opposed to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Griffin? Youngest goes last, sir.
Griffin McClure, 622 Johnson Avenue, Graham. Yeah, I mean, we're all here for this conversation to continue that we've heard tonight, started in December. It's been going 9 months and we want some sort of resolution. We heard at last month's meeting that we would get some estimates, or I guess the manager was directed to get some estimates. That's why we're here. I mean, that's the moment we know where the rubber hits the road. We know how much repair costs, and then you have a decision in front of you. I mean, you've heard tonight how important different things are as a sesquicentennial park, as a historical marker, as green space, as a public space, as a gathering space, all those reasons. I think you can understand why why somebody insinuated we might be confused as to why we're here, but it is in the agenda as an option to close the park, remove the memorial items, and sell the property as is. So, I mean, understand our confusion and why we're there and why we want to be part of the conversation. And I guess I have the only petition out there, but that Mayor Talley may have referenced.
None of these council members suggested that. On the agenda, as far as it says, city staff seeks direction from council regarding alternatives to be included in the request for bids for the Sesquicentennial Park period.
It is in there.
Under requested action on
It's in
staff report.
Yeah, there was that was a second alternative that was listed on the staff report because there had been some preliminary discussion of whether the city would
That
maintain.
didn't come from any council members.
I didn't say it did. I said that was going to be
Yeah, I
part of the
heard you.
conversation, right? If it's on an agenda, it's going to be talked about, or it could be.
Well, I didn't see that.
He's saying that's why they wanted to show up tonight because it was on
Yeah,
the
I
agenda
mean, if it-
written that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a citizen's right and
Yep.
duty, to be honest. So the petition, I guess, that Mayor Talley referenced earlier as misinformation, I do have that in front of me. I put that out on social media myself, wrote it, and 149 people have signed this language. By signing and typing my name below, I am agreeing that I believe keeping and repairing the existing green space downtown is important and should be pursued. By signing, I'm also saying I do not think the city of Graham should sell the Sesquicentennial Park off as surplus property, which I think we've heard all those options tonight. So I think that's a petition that went into the community, got a lot of reaction. I think honestly, a lot of baby boomers may have signed it if they could have figured out how to get away from Facebook to get to that. But I think ahead of you, you've got some due diligence as council members. If a motivation is to keep that green space, why are we not talking to New Leaf or Impact Alamance or the Alamance Community Foundation, groups that might support? I mean, that onus is on you as council people if you want that park to remain city property, a green space, or Sesquicentennial Park. I mean, I think we owe that, or I think as a citizen, I'm owed that, for you guys to be out there working, trying to figure out where that money might come from. I know we don't have a bid yet that is qualified, but that's down the road, and I want to point out those options too. But I think lastly, and I'll keep this one in the quiver, but I may have told my 9-year-old this morning that Artie the mouse was losing his home. So I will not bring her here in front of you, but please consider that families enjoy that space, kids know it, and I think all of us have enjoyed it, not just the historical aspects, but of the gathering and the memories.
So thank you for hearing us tonight, for me.
Thank you very much, Griffin. We appreciate your input.
Madam Mayor, there was nothing in the motion that I made referencing to sell the park or doing.
But it's on the agenda. That's what he was saying. It is written on the agenda that way as the second option. That's why they were concerned. Yeah, it's there. It's on there.
But we didn't put that on there.
Oh, it's just.
No,
it was-
that was put on there because of some of the discussion that has occurred at prior council meetings. So that was technically an option that could have been considered. Obviously, that's not what
'cause
the
there
motion was
some
made.
Discussion about
Mhm.
selling the property
Right.
previously.
I just wanted to underscore, I mean, I think the concern is that the agenda description of the requested action, I take it from Councilman Hall's motion, and in particular his just now kind of repeating, that it refers to subsection A, 3 options, which was to issue a request for bids for the one, a combination thereof, or all of the following options for Sesquicentennial Park. Repair the park in its current location, move the park to the Civic Center, and remove the park and grade the top surface only of the property. I gathered that was the 3 parts. But the next item, section B, that was at least on the agenda, is the one I think Griffin refers to, which is what is probably of greatest concern to a number of residents, is close the park, remove the memorial items, and sell the property as is. Now, granted, that's quote, only a staff listing, but it's in the agenda of what the council is allegedly considering.
And selling the property as is, you're absolutely right. We're not going to sell the property as it. If we were to sell it, from our lawyers, we've been told we can put conditions on the property where tell whoever, a prospective buyer, we want incorporated in your building, something that reflects that the park, the Sesquicentennial Park was here. You know, they could either have an atrium, whatever, but we can put conditions on the purchase. Because when you read as is, that means as is. But if we can put conditions on the purchase, we will put conditions on it.
Councilman and council members and mayor, I think the concern is where is the council's priority? And as was referenced, there's been a number of examples continually used about moving the park. This whole discussion erupted back in the spring when there was discussion about wanting the land to become some sort of private development. And I think even the inclusion, I was a little surprised that Councilman Hall included options 2 and 3. Since his original position at the December meeting was that the park needed to be repaired. I think that's how this topic originally arose, as
But
I
Mr.
understand it.
Boning, the park is coming, it's becoming a liability for the city of Graham. And we're trying to find an option to keep it open if we can. But if not, we're going to have to put fences up around it and nobody's going to get to use it.
Well, I understand that's a temporary, at least it's described as a temporary measure, the possibility of having to fence it off.
But you got to
I think
fix it.
we would be remiss if we didn't look at every single option. I
Right.
mean, we're
Well, this is just
we're
step
brainstorming
one.
here and we're looking at
And
every
it-
single possible option. And we're trying to get, some good,
We're trying to get
bids
foundation.
to find out
information.
how much each one of these processes would cost so that we can make an informative decision. We're just trying to be transparent in what all those options would be. We're not gonna, lie and say, oh, well, it's not even an option. It could be an option depending on what we find out on all the other stuff. Is it the option we necessarily want? No, but it could be an option. And we're not gonna lie and say it's not. We've got to get all the information. We're trying to be transparent, and be realistic.
Well,
And
and
when
as I
there's
say,
discussion about like reimagining the park, because something has to be done, right? And if you're gonna
Right.
put all this money into it, like we talked about, could it be a farmer's market? And they said, no, it's too small. could we make it more into a venue that has a roof covering and like install something in the pergola so that people could actually use it? Oh, it's too noisy. When the traffic comes by and the transfer trucks come by and go, "Tut, tut, tut, tut," you know, and, so then could we, could we possibly put back what the building looked like and call it this, you know, ask for someone to call it the Sesquicentennial Building, and move the
That's an
bricks out to the sidewalks. And there's been a lot of different discussions that were suggestions that were put out. But we're very, you know, it's kind of mute to even really discuss any kind of issues until we know the cost. If we're able to get some sort of cost that is, you know, a lot less than what we think it will cost to fix it, then I just think that, you know, both council members and I think the public in general, you know, need to consider all the facts before they render a decision about whether they want to do X, Y, or Z. And I do think that whatever we do over there at the park, we do owe a commitment to the community that if we're going to spend even over $100,000 on the park, we need to make sure that it's has a useful purpose. And I mean, going over there, I mean, I'm sure you, Sam, I'm sure you were not happy with the way that the park looked. It's disappointing to me as well. You know, there's trash everywhere and, you know, alcohol bottles and, you know, and I know they're over there every week picking up trash and, but, it's like, you know, I think a lot of the business owners, you know, when they clean off their storefront, you know, every day, there's not somebody over there every day picking up after people that are littering or leaving their lunch or their to-go boxes or trying to pitch a sleeping bag in the planters. I mean, we had an employee that went over there to water the flowers and somebody jumped up out of the thing.
The planter,
and
yeah.
About scared her to death and thought she was going to quit. I mean, she was very upset, wasn't she, Erin? I mean, she was very upset. And we need to be thoughtful about how we can best utilize the park when we fix it so that it's something that if it does go in that same location and we revisit that and we spend a lot of money to redo it, that it's something that we're proud of, and that it's not, it's not, you know, something that is, just trash and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we want it to be someplace that's nice.
I appreciate that, Mayor, and council. I would just say again, back to my original point, I think the priority needs to be on fixing it. Because I heard Councilman Parsons use the example of, I think it was a picnic place that had to be refinished, renovated because of a fire. You know, there's normally when city property deteriorates, has a problem, civic center, a picnic shelter, some park, tennis courts, anything, you need to repair it. There's a certain degree of maintenance that's required. And basically, part of the reason this situation has frankly deteriorated is because the city has not done anything in the intervening 25 years that I'm aware of, to keep the park up to any kind of standard.
Well, the reason it's deteriorated is because it wasn't done correctly in the first place.
Yeah, I take
That's the
exception to
I
that.
take exception to that.
I take it.
We
I
spend a lot-
absolutely do.
Spend a lot of money maintaining the flowers
Yes.
and having somebody out there literally weekly.
And
I mean,
somebody going
a
over
lot.
there and repointing all the brick. They've taken the walls down and rebuilt them.
Yep.
Yeah, but you can't, I mean, this is a situation where you're going to have to completely rebuild it from like excavate it, move the pergola, excavate it, put a new foundation in and completely rebuild it. You know, if you're not gonna have the bell in there because it's just a constant, vandalism issue and people are constantly ringing the bell at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and people having to call the police because they live down there. There's people that live above those apartments and they call and complain and the police is taking off, I'm sure something much more important to go deal with somebody ringing a bell. Then you have to, I think you need to re-envision that space to not have that stand there for a bell that doesn't sit there anymore. So, and if you do, then maybe you can use that middle space as something, but then you gotta consider the weather. So do you put something above it? I mean, there's a lot of options, but until we get pricing, and we've been frustrated as well, because we've asked monthly for pricing, and I think Burke's like, I don't know what else to do but then to put it out for formal bid, because I can't get anybody to price it informally. So that's where we're at.
Well, and I guess to me, the more appropriate motion, but that part's already, that ship has sailed, would have been to have a bid for number one to find out what it is to repair it in its current location. And again, in my mind, that should be the council's priority. I think there are, as mentioned by other speakers, some possibilities of some variation in the current look, some variation in possible other sources of revenue, both the county as a contributor, private organizations as contributors. I don't think anybody is necessarily saying the city of Graham needs to bear the entire cost, but it is primarily now a city-owned property.
We can't say and go and ask somebody to give us money when we don't know what
How
it's gonna
much?
cost.
Yep.
Well, and that's why I think number
Yep.
one is the priority. I encourage you all to have that as the priority as going forward.
Okay, thank you for your comments. City staff comments. Bob, do you have anything? Bob? Keep taking pictures of yourself. You have anything, Brian? Thank you so much. Aaron, you got anything?
One quick thing, staff, we've been approached by, individuals that would like to utilize, city spaces such as, the city parking lot to put semi-permanent fixtures on, similar to what we have in our sidewalks. I would like to bring back some language that would expand what we currently have, where individuals are getting encroachment license agreements in order to put stuff like a grease trap or anything within that space. In this case, it's a dumpster. Somebody would like to put a dumpster or inquiring about putting a dumpster in one of our city lots. So I want to just bring something back that would address that, or anyone else that would want to do anything similar, because what we currently have only addresses the public space of a sidewalk, and this would open it up to be something more in the event like a public parking lot. So if I have consensus of council, I'll get with the attorney. We'll come back with something next month.
Yes, I agree, yeah.
Thank
Okay. You have anything, Renee? You have anything?
I actually do. The Graham Historical Museum Advisory Board has requested that we can amend their bylaws to include Alamance County members onto the board. I think Brian and Bob have looked into it as well as Megan, and that is okay for them to do because they don't have any, I guess, jurisdictional or, you know, they don't make any laws or anything. So we would request to go to, leave it at a 7-member board and have the alternative to have 2 of the members be Alamance County members, because we all know that there's people that can really contribute. Doesn't have to,
Or-
you know,
ETJ.
well, we have ETJ already, but to expand it
Expand it.
to Alamance County,
Right.
as well as amend the, they have changed the
Don't have
date.
to- I mean, they could be from Alamance County, but if you have a Graham person, you wouldn't not pick a Graham person, right?
Right, right.
Okay,
I mean, if it
could
came
be
up and
either.
somebody applied,
right, okay,
but it would only be 2 of the 7. It wouldn't be so you wouldn't have a
yeah.
quorum of outside of the Graham city limits or the Graham ETJ. And, so that's something that we would like to propose. Move on if the if council has consensus with. I don't know, we need to vote on that, do we, Megan?
No, if that, as long as that's council consensus, we can move forward with the process and bring it back at a council meeting for future consideration.
And I'm sorry, there was one other topic on there that it says any member shall automatically be removed with failure to attend 2 consecutive board meetings. I don't know if that's 100% legal, if they can do that since we appoint them. I mean, is that, I would like for Brian and Bob to take a look at that language as well. It's in Article 3 on the appointment.
Don't mind if it's one person from Alamance County, but I don't know if I agree with 2, but
I don't know that it ever would be, but it would be the option if they needed it. They would have it.
Having a problem filling vacancies.
mhm.
And, you know, that's a really good board. They usually keep, you know, I don't think they've ever not had a quorum to
Yeah,
do their business there.
I would be agreeable if it was one person, one slot. I do think it needs to be made up primarily of Graham residents.
You still wouldn't be able to control it because
Oh, okay.
with 2, yeah.
Yeah.
There.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I may be out of order, but I had signed up also for remarks about Arts around the square. You've already voted on it, but I would like to be able to make my remarks. if that's
Sure.
appropriate. Again, this is for mainly those council members who were not here doing Arts Around the Square, which took place in the 1980s. I wanted to just give you a brief history of it and how it came about and what it was all about. The Graham High School Choral Ensemble was invited on several occasions by the mayor of the city of Vienna, Austria, to appear there and perform in an international Advent sing, which was conducted every year during the Christmas season. After the performance, one of the highlights was going outside to the Christmas market and enjoying all the arts and crafts. Councilman Shin, maybe you were there.
I've been in Europe.
You've traveled
ma'am.
around. And you see all of the arts and things, the woodworks, the Christmas ornaments and everything that they had to offer. Brian accompanied us on one of those trips, so he got to experience that. Janet Ryan had accompanied us on one of those trips with the Arts Council, and she came back and proposed to the council that they put on such a arts and crafts fair here, such as what she had experienced there. The council approved that, and long-range planning began. And it was strictly to be for the arts and crafts for the artisans of Alamance County, not only Alamance County, but our region and the state. Janet traveled from the coast to the mountains. She brought in specific exhibitors from the mountains. She brought the dulcimer makers, the woodworkers, from the Seagroves. She brought in the outstanding potters with their face jugs, on to the sand hills for the hand-blown glass balls that we'd seen at, in Vienna, on to the coast to bring in artists with their paintings and prints of the lighthouses of North Carolina and our coastal scenes. Coming back, they pulled the member groups of the council in, such as the Alamance Jazz Band, the Alamance Band, the Celebration Singers, dancers from our studios here, and even an International Bluegrass Music Association band based out of Raleigh, which included one of Graham's natives, Mark Rochelli, whose parents, Lou and Jane Rochelli, taught here in our schools. It was widely publicized by the regional TV, local radio stations. The award-winning Alamance News advertised it, wrote articles, covered it with pictures. Even Our State magazine included it in their editions every year in the outstanding events to participate and enjoy in North Carolina. That brought thousands of people here through the years, along with our local artisans like our painters and different artisans. It was very well attended. You asked, someone of you asked last time, did Alamance Council, Arts Council, did they register that name? I don't know whether they did or not, but it registered with me, and it registered with a lot of other citizens here who have asked you, when can we see Arts Around the Square? Will they bring Arts Around the Square back? I'm hoping that they will. And I've said it would be great to have it brought back as an anniversary celebration. We've missed the 25-year, but maybe 50. I won't be here, but look what others would be able to do. You've already voted on it. I would respectfully request that you consider rescinding that vote and reserve the title Arts Around the Square to the Arts Council for hopes that it would come at some future date. And I would challenge you to use your creativity to come up with a signature name for your event that will be successful, so successful that the citizens here will ask for it to be returned every year. So I thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm not here on behalf of the council, but merely as a citizen, a contributor to the arts who would like to see this festival be strictly for the arts and crafts and not represent it as what they associate with that. So thank you.
Thank you. Joy, did you have anything else?
That was all I had.
Okay. Ricky?
I'm good.
We had talked about, Aaron, fixing the planting, the bricks for the plant areas and the sidewalk. You had gotten a price, $6,000 something, $6,500.
Megan, do you remember what that price was?
Not right off. Hold on one second.
Yeah, let me. If you want to jump on anything else you have, I could try to look it up real quick.
Okay, the other thing that I have is about Riley Meadows. It was brought up to me again about, from a resident that's out there. I did not get a chance today to ride out there to look at it, but I believe that, well, her big concern is that, people are having to park in people are parking in the roadway, and the roadway's not that wide, and you can't get two cars up and down in front of the condominiums. Now, originally, those condominiums were 3 bedrooms, one garage and one car width wide driveway. I was like, that's not gonna work. And we talked them into doing 2 car garages with 2 car width driveways. And they still parking on the street. So her concern is there a way that the city can put up no parking and kind of, encourage strongly the developer to create some off-street parking, because as Ricky was, saying, about it previously, that you might have a garage, but nobody uses the garage for their car. They use it to store all their junk. So they have freezers in there and everything else. And so maybe at most they have space for one car, but typically not both. And so what could we do to, assuming that road will be turned over, or has it already been turned over to the city? Could we make it, no parking on the street?
So I think and it was 6,500, by the way, to replace the 2 planters. I think
My question, to go back to that, I wasn't sure when you sent that to me. I'm shocked that I could remember the price, but, was it 6,500 each or 6,500 for both?
I assumed it was for a combined. It said, well, I had
Well,
6,500
that's a
to re-
deal. We
to
need to
replace the
do
2
that.
planters.
That's a good price.
But I mean, we can certainly make sure that's what it was, but I was assuming based on how it was written, it was 6,500 for 2.
That's a very good in my opinion, that's a very good price, but, so the planters need to be re-bricked in the downtown, and, to me, it's just a maintenance thing, but, and Megan, would we have to bring that up at a meeting, or just?
So if that's council consensus, then we can move forward with a budget amendment to be considered in October.
Okay. What is your feeling that it's missing? I mean, it was torn down and they need to be, I don't know, they were either hit at some point and then taken down, but they need to be fixed back. Are you okay with that, Bonnie? Yeah. Are you- Yeah, okay. If you could bring that back, I'm sorry now, Aaron.
And I was gonna say, I think the easiest way for us to address the Riley Meadows situation would be for us to have Burke and the police department look at it, determine if that's something that would make sense, or is there a different option that may actually work better? And then we can come back with
Because they were kind of
recommendation.
reassuring us that they weren't gonna have people parking in the street.
I've
They
been through
do.
there.
I
It's a
rode out
mess.
there.
It's a mess.
Sunday, I was out in Mebane and Judy and I rode out there. It's horrendous. I thought we had parking issues in Valleyfield. They have some real bad parking issues out
Yeah,
there.
she's pretty upset. This lady was pretty upset about it.
Yeah,
On that one-
let's take a look at it so we can,
They're parking on the grass on the other side and everything. It's a
let's
mess.
take a look at it.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, those were the 2 things. Bobby, did you have anything?
Well, we've got the Balloon Festival this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 9 bands, 24 balloons, K9 demonstration, 5K race.
Concerts?
Yep, 9 concerts. So,
You have
come on out.
You have a Jeep show,
Oh, we've got a car show on Saturday, a
Sure.
Jeep show on Sunday.
5K race
And
on
we'll have
Saturday.
The Sheriff's Department's Honor Guard and Chaplain are gonna we'll have a 9/11 Remembrance Program at 9:30,
They have balloon tethering from
7:30 to
to
9:30.
9:30.
And
And then
5:30
at
to
5:30 to 7:30 in the evening, every day, $20 for adults and $10 for kids.
weather permitting.
Weather is fine. I've checked the weather. The weather is going to be fine. Isn't that right, Brandy?
Everybody do their anti-rain dance.
Except for the rain. But. All right,
Yeah.
Bonnie?
The Appearance Commission had heard, we were talking about replacing some of the banners downtown. So they were interested in, helping us with that, maybe doing like, military honor flags or, local veterans and stuff like that. So they wanted to, see if they could partner with us on whatever we decide we want to do with banners downtown. So they gave me a couple of pictures I can forward to y'all. Take a look at the type of things they're interested in doing. But they want to help out with that.
Yeah, I sent the stuff to Aaron. Did you send it yet?
Yeah, so I think, Evan had brought that up at the
Mhm.
Appearance Commission. And I think that was suggested in conjunction with what was presented to them. I'm imagining that they have a different set of banners than what was presented, so maybe we can try to see if there's a way to bring back all the options for council to consider. Because we don't have a quote on that one that I know of. I think he gave an estimated amount on that one.
Yeah. It was, hold on a minute, let me see what it was.
I want to say it's like 200 or something.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I'm trying to pull it up
So I
here.
think the banners that we got quoted were like 106 apiece.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
It was
I think it's
around
like-
200, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I think it's like 50 some of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine if we could bring back an arrangement of what possibly could be down there using those. Cause I think they want to switch them out for certain times of the year or something like that. I'm not-
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe we can come back with, this is what we would have for, I guess, the times not that they were speaking on, and then include those, and then that would be a number that council can look at.
So the banners that would be replaced for the existing banners that we have, I think Aaron sent out some, samples of those, and then, I think that it was brought up at, I'm trying to think what meeting by Renee for the wayfinding banners, which is the thing that I sent you that had the, banner, and then it had the name of the businesses, and hopefully have like the businesses sponsor those, the business association, sponsor those ones that have the wayfinding on there. And I, at first I was like, well, how do they stay on there? But they say they stay on with Velcro, so you just make the name plaque, and you can change out the name plaques if a business changes or leaves or moves or something like that. And then I've heard about the military banners, and maybe if they wanted to have those coming, I don't know, into town up to, say, the Arts Council, that you could change out based on whatever, I don't know, holiday or. But the ones that I've seen for veterans, they've always been paid for by a member of that veteran's family. Right. Yeah. Okay.
I get with Cameron and Evan, and I think Evan's the staff liaison for Appearance, so he can work with them to figure out how to make it work.
Okay. And anything else? Okay.
Go into closed agenda.
Yeah, I need to, ask the council to allow me to recuse myself before the council goes into closed session.
Or be allowed to recuse herself.
The motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Make a motion, we, council go into closed session. Need a second?
Second.
Excuse me.
If I may, could you please, in your motion, cite the statute that allows you to go into closed session?
In accordance with statute NCGS 143-318.11 Alpha 3, the council would like to consult with the attorneys employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between attorney and the public body.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, is the council expecting to hear any advice on any existing lawsuits?
No, sir.
No? If it's an existing lawsuit, it must be identified at this point,
Sir.
of course. Okay,
It's not.
thank you.
Motion to go in the closed session?
I make a motion, we go into closed session.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Would make a motion that we come out of closed session.
Second,
Um,
I make a motion that we, come back into open session.
Second.
second.
Aye.
Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.